This is a man of no discernible talent and very limited intelligence or self-awareness, who has had everything given to him and has had absolutely squandered it at best. That's the best way that you could frame what's happened. His daily life has barely been affected by him giving up his titles. How is he paying for Royal Lodge estate? Nobody knows.
Should we talk about Prince Andrew? Because it is the most read story on the Times this morning. It comes from an interview on this programme, actually, yesterday morning, which was Paul Scully, who used to be a minister and a trade envoy, telling Times Radio that Prince Andrew turned down free embassy stays while travelling in Asia in 2017.
And when I was over in Thailand, it was just after the funeral of the king of Thailand died, and he went over as the royal representative, and he didn't stay in the embassy. He decided to take, I think it was pretty well an entire floor of Mandarin Oriental, cost something like 50 odd grand to presumably the taxpayers' expense.
Well, that was Paul Scully talking about Prince Andrew. It's one of the many stories about Andrew in the newspapers this morning. Jenny, is it fair that there is this continuing discussion about, how far Prince Andrew should be ostracised, or has enough already been done in stripping him of some of these titles?
It is absolutely fair. This is a man of no discernible talent and very limited intelligence or self-awareness, who has had everything given to him and has had absolutely squandered it at best. That's the best way that you could frame what's happened. His daily life has barely been affected by him giving up his titles. How is he paying for Royal Lodge estate? Nobody knows. You had that clip from Roy Nika on earlier where even his own family doesn't know how he's paying for it. He is living the life of a prince on that estate. And the problem with Andrew is he feels entitled to the life of a prince. He feels entitled to a floor of the Mandarin Orient Hotel instead of staying in the embassy, a royal lodge, private jets, all of the rest of it. And that hasn't been taken away from him. I think the really big question is, does he have any fans? Does he have any supporters? I would love it if some tenacious journalist could find a tub thumper on his behalf saying, oh, yes, we love Prince Andrew and we think he should be able to keep everything. Now, that would deserve a journalism prize.
Well, you know what? Some of our listeners fall into that camp this morning, interestingly.
Really?
They do indeed.
I want to meet them.
Well, we can probably hook you up. Harry, do you think people really do care about this story? I mean, in all seriousness, there are lots of people who say, the victims and survivors of Epstein should be treated, with care, and we should listen to their points of view. And Virginia Giuffre's autobiography is out today. There are no doubt lots of revelations in it which will come out in the coming days. But Prince Andrew is sort of a lightning rod in this country, largely, as Jenny was saying there, because of his very, very senior position in the royal family. What more could or should be done in your view?
Well, he could go into exile, and there is a precedent for that, which famously, Duke of Windsor, because Clement Attlee thought it would be just unworkable to have two kings in the same kingdom. And the Duke of Windsor was sort of a similarly arrogant, prickly man as the Duke of York. And I think the longer the Duke of York hangs around like a bad smell, it doesn't really matter that he's been stripped of his titles, because no one really cares whether he's the Duke of York, and certainly not whether he's a Knight of the Garter. I mean, how many members of the public really care whether he has that honour? He's still a prince, and he's still going to pop up at church services, at funerals, at weddings. Even if he's only allowed in through the back door, we, the press, will take photos of him and he'll be back on the front page. And there's going to be a drip, drip, drip of just bad stories, the most important of which is essentially the one that Paul Scully alighted upon, which is that he has been freeloading on the British taxpayer, we assume, for many, many years. And there's been all sorts of very dodgy dealings, and it just tarnishes the monarchy, which I think the majority of the British public do support, and it casts a shadow over the King and indeed the Prince of Wales, Prince William, and all the work that they do.
I mean, Jenny, is that realistic, exile? I mean, we sort of say it laughingly, but is that a realistic prospect here, do you think?
I think it's one option. There are other options. You could find a way of taking away the title prince from him. We have to look at all options here, because he continues to be an embarrassment. There was no remorse or contrition in his resignation letter. It was another way of him talking about how he's just far too honourable, and he just doesn't want to cause trouble for the king. And, he has not learned. He does not learn. And so I think we need to go as far as we possibly can. If we want the monarchy to survive, the monarchy has to prove that they are separate and above this man, who is nothing more than a terrible embarrassment. And he's a lot worse than a terrible embarrassment, I would say.
Well, it's a funny thing, while listeners getting in touch with us this morning, because I would say to you that the majority of them are supportive of Andrew, either because they feel that he's been made a scapegoat or because they are fed up of hearing about the story. The Times.com best read list begs to differ.
Mark, sorry, you were writing up a lot of this stuff for the Times over the weekend. Though it seems to me the weirdness of this story is you have somebody who the whole world is calling on to resign, who hasn't really got anything to resign from.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And it's interesting, it's a drip feed of these stories that come out, and every single one of them comes out, and everyone reads them and goes, like this is the one about the hotel in Thailand, and you go, oh, yeah, that sounds like him. And it is sort of interesting. It's like the removal of the titles, it seems like the royal family seems to be doing this dam building defence. So they say, okay, it's a PR strategy. If we strip him of his title, really, put them in abeyance, whatever that means. It seems to suggest that he might get them down the track, whether that's true or not. But more and more information comes out, and it's almost like a defence by the royal family where they are preparing for more to come out. Yeah, look, for me, the big clincher is obviously the lease on Royal Lodge at Windsor. I think there's a fair bit of pressure on Crown Estate to actually say what the terms of the lease are and have some transparency over it. Whether that'll be enough to make Andy be packing up his bags and moving out, I'm not sure. But I think that's sort of his last line in the sand, I guess. I
mean, he presumably has some money of his own. His mother was the Queen. You'd imagine he inherited a bit. Is it the Royal Lodge thing? It's obviously important because it looks like a sort of an official endorsement. But as I said, you can't resign from being the brother of the king. You can't resign from being the son of the late Queen. You know what I mean? Is the Royal Lodge thing just because people are looking for something to make him hurt?
Well, I think the fact that he can never be stripped of the term prince, unless it's I think an act of parliament. I think that there is sort of a bit of baying of blood, I guess, and the fact that him and his ex-wife are living in a 30-bedroom lodge seems to get up the hackles of some people. But look, whether more information comes out, and I don't think the king can kick him out. Well, I guess he could, but maybe that's the next dam-building line of defence if more incriminating evidence comes out. I'm not sure.
Well, there are also reports this morning that the Met Police is investigating claims that Prince Andrew asked a private bodyguard to find dirt on Virginia Giuffre using her date of birth and social security number. That could be a sort of significant evolution of this, if anything was done on his behalf in that way.
I think so. Once again, it sounds true to form, true to character of Prince Andrew. I guess the Met says it's going to look into it, but it's going to reflect badly on them. Whether they've got computer records from 2011, I dare say that they'll probably spend a couple of weeks investigating and say they can't find any evidence, even though this officer may well have sort of tapped into a computer database. Whether they've got records or that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, look, he's still the Duke of York, even though his titles he's not going to use his titles. Rachel Maskell, MP for York, says her constituents are concerned by the connection. Do you feel bad for the people of York?
Well, I guess...
Yeah, the Duke of Edinburgh. We were fine.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But he's been stripped of the title. It'd be interesting. I think he seems to live and die by the titles. It'd be interesting to see in any letters that he sends out whether he's got Duke of York in brackets in abeyance or the man known formally as the Duke of York. I'm not sure. But yeah, look, I think his character seems someone who's hell-bent on titles. So it probably hurts him, but I'm sure whether someone I saw the other day in the Sunday Times, I think it was, saying he had DOY as his number plates. Be interesting to see. They might be a few spies, paparazzi near Windsor to be looking to see whether he's still driving around with those.
His number plate should be symbolically broken over a royal knee, perhaps. I think this story will never end and perhaps should never end.